Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, staff and faculty here at the Smith School of Business for inviting me to share this evening with you. And all these amazing guests. I mean, this is amazing. You guys should give yourselves a hand, really. It's great to be back here at the Smith School where I earned my MBA to share my journey, which is far from over, but I'm very excited to be here this evening. And when Sharon first asked me to be a guest of honor at this Women Leading Women event, I was ecstatic, just as she explained to you guys. But then I went back home and it sunk in, and I started thinking about it, and I said, wait a minute, am I a leading woman? I'm only halfway there. I mean, if I work till I'm 80 years old, I'm only halfway there. But it really gave me an opportunity, as I prepared to speak to you guys tonight, to think about my career, why and how it is that I'm standing here in front of you tonight as a survivor of my self-selected male-dominated field of construction management. So I think we'll go back to that goofy picture you saw in the beginning of me in the video clip. And it's really true. I love to do things with my hands. I always build stuff. I have power tools at home now. I build bookcases and all sorts of things with my hands. And, you know, so when I was younger, I used to say that I wanted to be a construction worker. And my mom would say, well, maybe you can own the buildings. She's always taught me that I need to make sure I make enough money to take care of myself and not rely on someone else for financial support. And my mom always indulged my interests, and I had a lot of interests when I was little. I played sports, I loved art class, and I loved animals and photography. And she always made a way for me to explore these interests, which resulted in exposure of a lot of different things and a lot of different people. So in addition to that, of course, I had academic support, and it became very ingrained in my fabric, that sort of idea of A's are expected in this household. You know, I always got that all A's and one B, and that's great, but how come it wasn't all A's story? And so when I started thinking about what I was going to do when I went to college, it was a big decision on what my major would be. And I decided that I'd figure something where I could use my hands and make money. So I chose to go and apply to all my schools as a chemistry pre-med major. So that's actually what I went to Howard University to get ready to start to be a physician, following in my father's footsteps. But then during the summer, before school started, I started to think, you know, is this really what I want to do? It's another 8 years of school, and you know, I had the influence of my father, but I started doing some soul searching. And I thought to myself, what is it that I can do that really fits my interests? What do I really love to do? And so I'm sure all of us would love to make money doing our hobbies. And I like to tell people that would be really great if you're really good at it, or else you're going to be broke. So that really took away the opportunities or thoughts of me being a professional photographer or skier or soccer player, and because I didn't want to be broke because of the lessons of my mom. I don't want to rely on other people to support me. So that eliminated all those ideas. So I went back to what I love to do, putting things together, and using the interest that I developed in math and science to put that together. So I started thinking, I went through the catalog at Howard University. This is all before the summer of my freshman year. And I said, engineering, I think that's it. So I figured I would concentrate on engineering, and furthermore, I would concentrate on building structures. Wow, imagine that I would get back to that construction worker idea, but with a twist, not really out there hammering and pouring concrete. So I like to say lesson 1 is being true to self. Recognize what you do well, what you enjoy, and of course, something that you can make money at. I mean, money's not everything, but it sure helps. You know, some people say follow your dreams, and you know, I say that follow them in a calculated way. Follow your dreams, but you know, it was always a stress to me to make sure that we can progress ourselves and be great examples and be able to provide for ourselves. Now I'd like to take a moment to recognize my mom, who you've heard is here tonight, sitting here in the front row, along with my 2 daughters. And for me, recognizing her is very important because she wrote the book on being a leading woman. She's one of the pioneers that broke through the glass ceilings for a lot of us. She's retired now, but she used to run Washington, D.C.'s Department of Public Works, the parking enforcement program. So she sort of was in a male-dominated field as well. And she's a very important part of my success. And I wanted my daughters to be here because this is the beginning of their exposure to all of the power that they have. And I want them to see everybody here and see how engaged everyone is in promoting the power of women. And I fully anticipate that they will be leading women and men as they grow into being young women. And I plan to provide, just like my mom did, opportunity for them to explore their interests and support them. And so for me, you know, all that Sharon said about me, that's great. But if I can be a good mom, then we'll really be working on all pistons there. And I just want to thank my mom because she's a great example of an amazing role model. So now that you have a snapshot of my background, I'd like to move on to sharing my career and how I found success as a female in a male-dominated field. First, let me share that I'm pretty analytical, as you may think, as being an engineer, and I'm a bit of a thinker, and I plan a lot. So with that, and knowing that I wanted to be in construction management, and that I was going to be in a male-dominated field, I started my career back in 1989. So it looks a lot different now if you go work in construction companies, but it wasn't like that back then. So I knew when I was in college that the first order of business was to graduate with a degree in civil engineering, because being a female, you really, really, really have to make sure that you're strong in your technical abilities so that no one can take that education away from you. And the second part of my plan was to get a job with a large construction company that would sort of show me the ropes, give me an opportunity to learn all aspects of the business, as well as being on large projects, not projects that, not to say anything's wrong with this, but building, you know, a shopping center or a restaurant. I wanted to be on projects that were public, large, and recognizable so that I would gain the most experience that I could. So I think that when you put those two together, and you saw some of the pictures of when I was in school, it's important to make sure that you do all that you can to solidify a structure that will afford you an opportunity to grow and learn. And one thing in one of the pictures that you noticed, me with the hard hat on, that was my first year out of college, and I did field engineering, which it was very hot in the summer, very cold in the winter. I spent one whole year, every day, all day. I was dirty every time I went home, never could keep my hair done. But I could probably still do that job today. I wouldn't want to, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. know, that's one of those sort of things that the guys did and I didn't get any special treatment, but it solidified my commitment to my industry, and, you know, kind of gave me some kudo points when I went into the office to learn other aspects of the business. The other important factor early in my career was to make sure that I expressed my goals to the powers that be at the company. Rather than letting assignments be handed to you, I would ask to be selected for certain projects or be a part of certain departments, because my plan again was to learn all I could learn about the company. And rather than letting things happen to me, I sort of wanted to chart my own path. And as a result of that, I worked on projects like the Orioles Stadium at Camden Yards, the National Archives building that's right out here in College Park, the Pentagon basement renovation, which was a huge project, and also when I was in Cleveland, I worked on the Cleveland Clinic Learner Research Building and the Cole Eye Institute. And then I also got an opportunity to spend time in the estimating department, cost engineering, business development of two large commercial construction firms. And I gained a lot of knowledge, and that was just in my first 12 years out of school. So I would call all of that lesson 2, which is proceed with purpose in life. Okay, so that's great. I've been selected for wonderful projects, and I learned a lot about the industry. Now that I have lessons 1 and 2 down packed, we all know that's really not enough, right? We have to perform at our best. Especially as women, we always have to push the bar and exceed expectations. So utilizing my knowledge base, which, as I spoke about, is through formal education and all my experiences, I made sure that I performed every task to the best of my ability. And for me, meeting this expectation was relatively easy because it was part of my fabric. It was part of what my mom taught me. It was part of making sure I get all A's all the time. But little did I know at that time that that was more than just getting a really great GPA. It was a little lesson in striving for excellence. And I think to succeed and differentiate ourselves, we must strive for excellence. Excellence is not only a result of our knowledge, which I like to call my knowledge, which is what I learned in school and all the experiences, my little toolkit. And they're the tools in my bag that I carry around with me. Nobody can take them away. But the cousins to excellence are dedication and perseverance. There's also an aspect of not being satisfied with status quo. You know, we can't just, if we were satisfied with status quo, we probably wouldn't have iPads and all these other things that we have today that help us do our jobs. And I think for me, to be excellent, we also have to be dedicated. And I know that can be difficult sometimes, but it really sets you apart and gives you instant respect among your peers. In my experience, I've found that once you maintain the respect of your male counterparts and superiors, it really can elevate your visibility in the company, or your visibility if you have your own business in the marketplace. And once you elevate your visibility, it gives you an opportunity for all those around you to think of you when an opportunity comes around. So you want to, put yourself in a position where when there's a new position or a new opportunity, they think of you. And that's what you've done, as you built all these building blocks. And it's like building your own personal brand, just like we learn in MBA school, right? and when we want to take a product to market, you brand it, and you want brand awareness. And I like to think of everyone should create their brand of themselves. And so then when someone thinks of Lisa or Sharon, immediately they assign a brand to that, and they know what they're getting. So lesson 3 is excellence. So with lessons 1 through 3 in place, we're now in a position of strength and confidence. We can now take a few risks and step outside of our comfort zone and take on those challenging opportunities that fall a little bit outside of what we've done before, but we know that we have all the tools in our bag. We just haven't organized them quite in the way that the opportunity is requiring. So it's important for you to know that you can pull all those experiences and your knowledge together, and you can be successful in this new opportunity, but we've got to really step out there and take that risk. Taking on that challenge and succeeding will solidify your position of respect among those in your field. So lesson 4 is to know that you can do it and have the confidence that it takes. Now, lesson 5 is a little more subjective. In a nutshell, we have to learn to cultivate how to use what God gave us as women to our advantage. And that's the soft skills. That's what I call the soft skills. I believe in business that if you have achieved lessons 1 through 4, and you have them under your belt, you will be a woman of real advantage in anywhere you go in your company or in your own business in the marketplace. And quite often you have the upper hand, and as women, we exhibit more natural leadership skills. That's what I've found in my experience. But in a male-dominated field, you can't even get to the point where those count until you have proven that you have the technical ability. So those soft skills don't even really come into play to really get you to the point that you're trying to get to. So in a male-dominated field, we have to excel technically before we can use those subjective soft skills. And it's my belief that as women, if we have lessons 1 through 5, which now includes using our soft skills, that you will be able to sustain your career growth and your path. And you'll find yourself in a position of influence, power, control, and grace. I love that word, grace. Grace is so important. And it kind of brings in everything on how you conduct yourself, what people think of you, no matter what the situation is, bad or good. You always want to leave and walk away from something with grace. And with those, you will be respected among your peers. And to me, I'm just going to rattle off what I think are some of the important subjective skills: listening, collaboration, thoughtfulness, respect, honesty, passion, which is one of my favorites, faith, not letting ego get in the way, and operating for the greater good. So if we can do all that, it can really be amazing. Now, back to the soft skills. I mean, some of the techniques that I've used have really become second nature. And I'm not sure about your experience with our male counterparts, but I find they like to be right. And they like to have found the solution, right? They like it to be their idea. So I use like a little psychology, a little Jedi mind trick. For me, this has worked in the past. So for example, if at work we're discussing an issue, and before I go to any meeting, and I know we're meeting about an issue, I usually formulate my own strategy or the way to solve the problem. So, I usually go to the meeting, and instead of trying to force my opinion on the group, I would tend to sit back and say, well, what do you guys think? And then they'll give their opinion, and if I agree, great, we go on and we just go down that path. But if I don't really agree, or if it's a little bit different from what I'm thinking, then what I'll do is I'll say, oh, you know, that's a good idea, but what do you think about this? Do you think this could work? And then they ponder over it, and they think about it, and then they decide, yeah, you know, that could work. And then now they've really embraced this, and it's, you know, kind of their idea now. I mean, they bought into it, and they feel like it's a good solution. And now you've gotten their buy-in, and they feel like they really developed, you know, the answer. And, you know, sometimes I think as women, you know, I know younger in my career, we like to come in and show that we know it, that no one's going to take over. But I think if you build these building blocks, your recognition of your knowledge will eventually shine through. It's always backfired on me when I try to force my way, or it just, even if I'm right, the male counterparts in my industry, for the most part, that's my bosses and everybody else who's going to determine where I go, if I decide to stay with the company. And I find that even if I'm right, it doesn't leave a good taste in their mouth. So then I didn't have any grace, and it just doesn't work out, and I'm not thought of the next time. I'm a troublemaker, I guess. So I tend not to do that. I'd rather sit back and listen and work more collaboratively with my team. So, you know, I think there's a fine line between being pushy and influencing the situation. And you also have to be committed to, if you're committed to excellence and you show your knowledge, that, as I said, will come through to everyone that you're dealing with. Another technique that I've developed, or that I use, is back to the listening, is I observe a lot. I observe what people say, I observe how they say it, I observe what they're saying, and I adjust myself. You know, the subject matter can stay the same, but I adjust myself in my response to them and how I deal with them. And I think if we take a minute to, you know, bring that soft skill, that psychology, or whatever part of that, it's kind of this, you can't really define what it is, but developing that and understanding how to utilize it and how we respond to people, you'll find that you will be able to get your message across in a more effective and receptive way. So we have, and the other thing I want to talk about is, like I said, we have to have grace and we have to have patience. And there really isn't instant gratification, usually. If it is, it's short-lived, it's not sustained. So as Sharon mentioned before, I've been in the construction industry now going on the 23rd year, and the 6th year into that is when I received my MBA from the Smith School. And I did that part-time. I was working full-time for, at the time, Clark Construction Company. And so assignments came and went at work, and the plan that I had laid out was proving to be a success. But back to the patience, it was a slow and steady ascending path that I was going on. I mean, I didn't have any fallbacks, but I was moving forward. And so the plan was working, but again, in my industry in construction, I mean, you don't really have all these ups and downs, you just have a slow, steady chart. And in 2007, I received a call. I remember I was living actually in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, working on a big DeKalb County Schools program that was sort of winding down. And I got a call. And remember I talked about trying to put yourself in a position when an opportunity exists and people think of you. So I got a call from Daryl McKissick, who is the CEO and owner and founder of the company that I work for now. And she was in DC, and she's certainly a woman to be recognized as a leader. McKissick and McKissick is, for those of you who don't know, just celebrated their 20th year in business. And Daryl McKissick is a graduate of Howard University in civil engineering. She's a professional engineer, and she's an African-American woman. And she has a company that does architecture, construction management, environmental, and transportation. And we have offices in DC, Chicago, and Los Angeles now. So Daryl called me up, and she asked me to come manage what would be one of my greatest accomplishments to date, besides my curls here, and head up the design and construction effort of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial on the National Mall, a project that all the world could see. And for me, it was a win-win, because I was in Atlanta. I'd been there maybe 2 or 3 years, and it was an opportunity to come back home. My mom lives here. My grandmother lives here, who's 90. Unfortunately, can't be here this evening. And it just made sense. It was a win-win, and now it was finally. I mean, I've been on some big projects like the archives. And they were higher dollar volume projects, but nothing like this. Nothing that would not only be seen by everybody, it's on the National Mall, it's in honor of Dr. King, who, you know, that's full circle, right? Paved the way for people like me to be able to even consider building something on the National Mall. So for me, it was even more than just advancing my career. It was an opportunity to do something that would, I guess, maybe, well, certainly it changes the landscape of the mall, but when I think about this memorial, I mean, we all know about Dr. King and his teachings in civil rights and everything, but as I worked on the project and I read the 14 quotes, I mean, how many of you have been down there? Okay, it's beautiful, right? So, the 14 quotes, as you read the 14 quotes on the inscription wall, you know, they come, and you see they tell me like 1 million people a month have been visiting the memorial. So, okay, so if all those people can come, and they're reading the quotes, and they're learning that this person wasn't just a person about civil rights here in America, it was about human rights, right? And we've got all these wars going on. So for me, yes, it was a construction project. Yes, we poured a lot of concrete, and we erected a wonderful sculpture and all that. But really the accomplishment and what the memorial did, I think, and I'd like to hope, is to re-energize and share Dr. King's, reinvent, or not necessarily reinvent, what I want to say, really re-enlighten us about the teachings of Dr. King, because to me, there's a lot going on in the world, and we're not really all, you know, working together. So all of those that can visit, and if they could just walk away with something from that, then we've got to be moving more towards peace. But it's a memorial that speaks to all generations, and unless we really get to a point, which I'd love to see, I hope I live that long, where we do have peace and harmony amongst everybody, that memorial will always be relevant, and all the words on the walls will be relevant. So, you know, wow, you know, my plan worked, right? Lessons 1 through 5 had proven to be a good formula for me. And ironically, as I was putting this together and I was visualizing the lessons, they really sort of, if you stack them up, they build a structure that started with a foundation that was on strong ground that my mother prepared for me. And the plan was completed by me, with the support of my community, because we all know we can't do it alone, right? We can't do it by ourselves, and so maybe that's lesson 6, that we need to support one another and give back. So to me, with commitment, guidance, and passion, and a sense of excellence, I've been able to achieve things in my career that are really beyond my expectations. And I mean, I'm not done yet, but I don't know how, you can really top the Martin Luther King Memorial. Even this new project that Sharon mentioned, the Smithsonian's building African American Museum of History and Culture that will be located on Constitution Avenue between 14th and 15th. That will be a great project, but it'll teach a lot of people about a piece of American history that isn't always celebrated. But I don't know that it has the same world impact as the Martin Luther King Memorial. So, I want to say that, to me, you have to own your choices, whether they're good or bad. It's part of the journey. And I'd just like to leave you with this thought, that you are in control of you. So, when we go and we complain about this and that, or, I didn't get this promotion, well, do something about it. Either push for the promotion, or change your chart, change your path, change your plan, but you're in control of you. And so I want to, and I want everybody here to make their time here on earth count. And all that exists when we're gone is the memory of us. So let's make a lasting impression on this world. Thank you.
Some questions that the audience might have. So, questions?
There's one.
Yes.
Hi. I work in real estate on the property management side, so it's kind of still dealing with the male domination.
Yes.
Can you speak to how you maybe circumvented or survived any type of negativity that you may have come across as you worked your way up?
I'm sorry, any type of
Negativity.
Negativity.
Just, like you said, men like to be right, and
yeah.
you answer affirmatively, then you're called aggressive, and
Well, I will say, I did mention that I kind of observe and, read people. But there is a time that we have to, and that's part of reading people. There is a time sometime that you have to do what I call flex a little bit to get the respect. And, whenever I was confronted, this actually happened on the Martin Luther King Memorial Project. So that project was a joint venture of 4 companies that came together: McKissick, Turner, Tompkins, and Guilford. So that's 4 corporate cultures that I had to lead. And in the trailer, I think there were 9 of us. There were 3 from one company and 2 each from the other companies. And any of you all who are in construction, which I know my good friend here, Maria, is, she understands we work together when we're at Clark Construction, knows that the superintendents tend to be the gruff, they're not the ones who usually want to see us on the job. And so I think to answer your question, usually what I have done is, one, especially at this point in my career, I know this sounds funny, I know what I know. And when I know that I'm right, and the answer and the solution to the problem has to be solved this way, but you're butting up against some negativity to that, you still, and that's what I was talking about, it may be difficult, you still have to keep that determination. And at the end, usually it will result in your favor. But the other thing I do, as that's going on, sometimes I back channel that with people that I've that I've kind of, identified as my friend or my, my supporters.
I think the other point you made too is about listening and observing before you jump in.
Right.
Which is a great point
Right.
too. Yes, Sheree?
Good evening. Can you speak to the challenge of maintaining home as you ascend and some of the things that you did to maintain that balance?
Wow, okay. So of course I wasn't always a single mom. So there was a point in my career after I was in Cleveland that, and I really struggled with this. I did do a little detour and it was really tough to convince myself, but I did take some time, and I was a stay-at-home mom for 2 years or 3, 2, I can't remember. It was after Danielle was born, but right around the time Alexandra was born, and they're 2.5 years apart. So I did that, and then I started my own small construction consulting company. And I think I still have that entrepreneurial spirit, which is why I love working at McKissick, because it gives me sort of that latitude with the comfort of having a corporation. So I did that in my own business, and during that period of time, I hired someone to help with the kids as I tried to grow this business. And then when I moved to DC, and at that point I was a single mom, there is some struggles, and one thing I think one thing that's really changed since the time I got into the industry is sort of this acceptance, even for men, that family's important. So in corporate America, I find that it's gotten a little bit softer. Like, I'll hear guys saying, I gotta go coach my son's baseball team, and it's 4 o'clock. So some of that is changing, and I think the corporations are realizing that to have happy, productive employees, we need to let them be able to be a full person. It's not just all about work. So as a woman, though, you still are like, oh gosh, they're going to think, I got to stay home with the kids, or because they're sick and I'm not doing my job. So you overcompensate sometimes, and you work a lot from home, and you kind of try to show that you're really working and you're not slacking off. So I think, though, I've gotten to the point where I said to myself, you know what? That time is passing really quick, and that item on the desk is going to be there tomorrow. So like this morning, my daughter had an exhibit at her school for her project in Egypt. So I was there from 7:45 to 9:15. And I enjoyed it, and it was something that she could share with me, and I could learn all about her class. And I went in, I handled my business, I'm here tonight, and you just kind of work it in, and it's all about what you want to do. And I would be really remiss in not saying that my mom helps me out a lot. I mean, there's some things now, especially with my role in business development, I have to go to dinners in the evening and different events that, I'd have to have a different plan if my mom wasn't here. So, but I hope she enjoys the time with her grandkids.
That's that whole takes a village thing. Like,
Yeah,
you really
yeah.
have the support.
That's right, that's right.
Other question, sure.
How big of a role has having mentors played in terms of helping you to develop professionally?
That's funny you asked that, because I was just telling someone the other day that I really didn't have a specific mentor or someone that I aligned with. Now, I don't know if that's a result of the industry that I selected, meaning that no big guy or guy was coming, hey, let me teach you the ropes, sort of thing. So for me, my mentor was my mom, because, what she taught me seemed to work. And she was a working woman herself, and so she has been a mentor for me. So I really can't as much speak to that now. At my company now, we're going through this coaching exercise, I guess, where the company has determined, because we want to grow to the next 20 years, has determined, well, you know, I want to make sure that our leadership is working well together and we're able to exponentially grow and expound on that. So with that, they've assigned us coaches. My coach is actually here tonight, Cheryl over there. And so, and we've only been working together for the past couple of months, but before that, I haven't had a mentor in my industry.
Can we have anybody over here? No? Okay, we'll go back to the, there you go.
So you've been in the construction industry pretty much since you graduated college.
Right.
And I'm noticing in my MBA program, a lot of the folks are doing career change. But for me, I'm in the financial sector. I'm not really sure if I want to do a career change. So what did you take from your MBA, or why did you initially go into your MBA because you didn't actually switch careers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, remember I planned, right? So I knew I did not want to just always be on a site running a project. I mean, I love that. I really do. I found that I love that. But, you know, I wanted to be, you know, this exec who, you know, devises the strategies and all that stuff and you know, runs a department. I thought that having just a technical degree wouldn't afford me all the business knowledge that I needed, because in engineering school, it's just engineering. It's math, science, chemistry, calculus. I mean, we could be math minors if we took one more class, at least at Howard. And so there's no business component, and I knew I wanted to be in business but doing construction management. So that's why I chose to do the MBA. And plus my mom and grandma said, you can't just have an undergraduate degree, you have to have a master's degree. But so I wanted the business, and to be honest with you, at that time, let's see, so I was about 6 years into my career, no one else that I really knew, except people I worked with, but no one I went to school with was in my field. And so, you know, it's kind of like you're running this race, and everyone's going by as far as salary is concerned. So I was like, hey, you know, this construction thing doesn't pay the same as people who are in finance or other business arenas. So I'm going to get this MBA, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and all this good stuff, which, you know, which is another reason.
We won't talk about that right now.
Which is one of the reasons why, once I was in the school, I said, I'm going to change careers. I'm not doing this construction thing. I want to do something else, because I had a lot of interests anyway. So I thought I could do something else. You know, building a building has a budget, has a schedule, it has people, and so does any other product out there. I could transfer those skills. But then once I got near completion, and I actually went on interviews for other companies, and I went back to that same thing that I did before I chose my major, and I went back and said, but every time you walk in a building, you look around and look at the details, and you love this stuff. So let's harness that, don't throw away that experience, and let's use what you built in your experience and couple that with the MBA to elevate yourself. So
maybe we have time for another question, I think? Okay, sure.
So for someone who might be wanting to fast track their career by performing well and building their personal brand in an organization, how do you maintain that balance between sitting back and not being pushy and making sure you gain visibility, especially in a team where your senior leadership may not be part of the team?
Say the last
Where your senior leadership may not be part of the team,
Right.
so somebody from the team might be reporting out to them, you know, what's happening within the team.
Right. See, you want to give away my mojo. No, you know, it is a delicate balance, and, you know, it's hard to answer you because it's situational, really. You have to read the situation, and like I was saying, for me, like this archives project, they could have assigned, you know, so the company has, I don't know what all industries are here, but, you know, usually, unless you're already at the top, there are multiple people in your organization that have your same function, right? And so now here comes an opportunity, maybe a new project that's going to be launched, or a product, or for me it's a new building. And, you know, I would do a little bit of forecasting or looking ahead, not just staying in my job like this, but where is the company going? Even though I'm right here, what are they doing? And even do I even want to be associated with this company if they're going this direction versus that direction? So identifying some of what that is and where you want to chart your path, you know, and then deciding specifically, like I was saying, to reach out and get to know who are the people who may be your supporters, and say, you know, I heard in a couple of months they're going to be launching this project, and you know that project has, you know, 3 positions or even 1 position that they're going to pick someone like you or one of the other 5 people like you. So I would go and say to whoever I thought was appropriate, I want to be on that project. And you know, to them sometimes it's not even really, I want this person or that person. They just want a person that fits that description. And why not let it be you if you've shown the interest? And that's sort of how I just paved the way on you know, in a situation, you know, like I was saying, it was hard to answer because it's situational. So you have to read that and make sure that that person's going to be receptive to what you're saying. And sometimes it's not the right time. But I mean, I would go down to the detail of like, okay, I want to ask Bob, or just say Bob, this question. And okay, so now I've gotten up all my courage to go ask Bob this. And I walk towards his office and he's busy, or he looks like he's in a bad mood. I keep on walking. And until the time to me presented itself, maybe Bob and I would be in there making coffee one day, and he's talking and chatting it up, and I'd say, oh, Bob, you know, I'm really interested in so-and-so. He's like, oh, really? You know, let's talk about it. So that's what I mean about picking your time and reading the situation.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's an issue we've talked about before, about how women have a tendency to just stay in their office with their head down, working, and not being proactive about seeing the bigger picture and the things that they could be on, and then asking for those things,
Right. I think sometimes, you know, it's important to bring a little humor into it sometimes, because I think we think that they need to think of us as, you know, we're this great businesswoman and like that. But, you know, they're goofy and they do stuff and they act however they act around each other. And, you know, we have to show our human side.
So I'm sure there's going to be other questions, but I know that we all want to have an opportunity to continue to network. I'm going to turn it over to Sharon, who's going to close us out. We're not going to thank you just yet, though.
I have one thing I wanted to recognize. Jana here. She is, can you stand up, please? She's a freshman in the School of Architecture. And at the Martin Luther King Memorial Project, the joint venture wanted to do something to give back to the community. So we, the subcontractors and the joint venture, put this money aside to do something in the community, you know, so we could have gone off and built houses or done something. But I thought it was important because our industry, whether it's engineering, math, science, architecture, technology, we are not finding that we have a great pool to choose from. So I want to promote that. And so I said, let's have a scholarship. So, I mean, we're builders, so we didn't know anything about scholarships. But I wrote up some questions that I thought would be important on how to evaluate. And we put a scholarship together for public students from the Washington metropolitan area, and they had to be minority, and they had to be going into college. They had to be seniors and choosing a career, a major in architecture, engineering, construction. And we gave 10 students each $5,000 and MacBooks, and Jana is one of our recipients. Thank you, and I thoroughly enjoyed the evening.
That's a great example of mentoring and giving back.
So this has really been a great evening. We've learned a lot from Lisa. I'm really going to remember the Jedi manipulation. That's what I wrote down. So grace, passion, and Jedi. I think we will all remember that. I think I'll pull that out of my head next week sometime. But Lisa, if you would please come forward, we would love to give you just a little. Yeah, from the Smith School. Now, this is definitely for photo op only because it moves around. We don't want it. So be very careful with that. So thank you so much. This is the coveted crystal tournament. So, this is hot stuff around here. And so this is, we have your name on the plaque, and this is the first woman that we are celebrating with Women Leading Women here at the Smith School. So, Cheryl,